Urban legends. Wonderful thing about them is just about everywhere has one, or two, or more. Join us today, speaking of spirits, as we talk about urban legends. Okay, so urban legends, like I mentioned, interesting just about everywhere. Every location has some type of urban legend. Some of them have many of them. There's a lot of themes with urban legends that come across in a lot of different locations. Just about everywhere has a lady in white.
Yeah.
Urban legend. Just about everywhere has a bridge that an unseen force will push your car under the bridge or whatever, out from under the bridge. So urban legends are interesting, so everybody has some. We're going to focus on 3 specific ones on this podcast. Just kind of like, and I'll go ahead and get started. Mine, the one that I chose to talk about today is very interesting to me on a lot of different levels, and I'm not really sure how to classify it. It's got a little bit of paranormal involved, but it's also got some other areas that we could put it under. And the one I'm going to talk to today comes out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, within the city limits of Philadelphia, and it is a bus from the urban transit area there that reportedly goes nowhere.
Just like my Tahoe.
Yes, just like Tim's Tahoe. Tim has a Tahoe that's a work in progress right now. So.
It hasn't moved in exactly 4 months.
Oh, boy.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, the thing is this bus does move. It just does not have a specific destination.
Very interesting.
Very interesting. Now, a couple of things about this is that to catch the bus, you have to chase it. Now, what's interesting is the legend says is that the people who get on the bus know it is their bus for whatever reason, and for whatever reason they're drawn to it, attracted to it, somehow know it's their bus, but they have to run after it and chase it. And the bus will stop just to make sure that the person is qualified to get on. Now, to be qualified to get on, this is a bus that has people who are pretty much have lost all hope. People who are really at the end. They've kind of given up on everything, very, very severely depressed. Those are the requirements to ride this bus. And it says the bus will stop to make sure that you want to get on there, that you're in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get on there and the bus just drives, just goes around.
Interesting.
And when you are ready to get off, you pull the cord, and it is reported that the bus will drop you off where you need to be. Not where you wanted to be, not necessarily, but where you need to be.
Still within the city limits?
Still within the city limits.
Or otherwise I'm taking that and going to Ireland.
Yes.
So, just saying.
But no, still within the city limits of Philadelphia. A couple of interesting things about the story, though. This is, it says you get off the bus when you are ready.
Huh.
So I guess after you have processed whatever you are going through, after you have gotten past this severe depression, whatever issue puts you there, whatever you're dealing with.
So
when you work through that, you're ready to get off the bus.
Are there any reports of people who've been on the bus and they've lost time?
Yes. that is one of the interesting things is you don't know if you're on the bus for a couple hours, a couple days, a couple of years.
Wow.
Just however long it takes you to process everything and get through. Now, the legend is also that as soon as you get off the bus, all your memories of the bus ride are removed. So you can't really say how long you were on there, where it went, who it is. It's reported that there is a bus driver, but nobody knows male, female.
Sandra Bullock.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, exactly. What the speed was of the bus while you were on it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
None of the details are reported. Nobody can really remember being on the bus.
If nobody can remember, how is the legend? You know what I'm saying? It's like a vicious circle.
Yeah,
so.
it is. How can anybody do this? Well, it's kind of interesting because according to the legend, you will know you were on the bus, but you can't remember any specifics.
Oh, okay.
And
That's kind of.
and that's also why they
interesting.
can't specify, what the driver, who the driver of the bus is a male, female,
right.
how long you were on
Because
the
there's
bus.
no memory.
Yeah. It's kind of like one of those things where, okay, you can remember you were there, but you don't remember any.
So if you go back with
Specific things.
most legends are based somewhat in fact, right? I mean, there's got to be kernels of truth in a legend, because otherwise, how did it spring forth unless it's a really creative guy? Like, I wonder how the story first got going. Is there any dates?
Yes, this actually story first started being told around 2011.
Oh, wow.
That's
And
fairly recent.
That's
fairly recent. And there's some indication here that it was actually was created for a blog post.
Oh, yeah.
Writer and comedian Nicholas Mira. Nicholas, if you're listening, if I mispronounced your name, I do apologize. Lives in Seattle now, but in 2011, he wrote and published a short story on his blog titled Philly Urban Legends, The Wandering Bus. And that is the first time it was known to be online and the first really reference anybody has ever heard of it. But it's also gotten to the point now to where residents of Philadelphia actually claim it's true.
Dun, dun, dun.
They've actually seen the
Yeah.
bus. The bus, they say this particular bus has no markings on it of its destination. Most buses
Right.
have like some kind of lighting,
Right.
LED lighting system, say where they're going.
Right.
This has no route number, no destination.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
So,
Have you spent any time in Philadelphia?
yeah, I have.
No.
I want to completely forget my subway experience.
I know, right? I lived
Maybe that's what-
there for 7 years. 7 years, yeah.
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 So I haven't spent a lot of time on the East Coast.
Uh-huh.
I think it was 4 days in Philadelphia. And people touched me in places I didn't even know I had when I was in the subway. I've never been that tin can before.
Yeah, it is. So it kind of reminds me, this guy, I wonder, he created this story out of the thin air, right? My dad did that. So just,
Okay.
there's a magazine, I think, and I don't know if it's still in publication, it's called Treasure Hunters. And it's like any lost gold story out there, right? Anything like that. Well, my dad wrote this story about Highway 80 has a train that when they had to blast through Granite Mountain to get this train track through it on Highway 80 that comes over from Reno down into Sacramento. And so he wrote about this lost bullion on the train. It was like gold coins or something anyway. And this whole large story about this train derailment and they hid the gold and blah, blah, blah. And he says people for years were sending the magazine letters asking for a little more detail, and it was all fiction until one guy one day wrote to the magazine and said he found it. And he gave me pictures, a Polaroid picture of this gold bullion that he found up there somewhere by Donner Summit.
Wow.
Yeah, my dad couldn't believe it. He's like, I made it up. I made it up.
Bonus to whoever found it.
I know, right? So, this guy, 2011 seems pretty recent, but then again, how are we to know that an urban legend's supposed to have a date, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, he might have spent some time in Philly and heard all these stories, and...
He might have picked up the story somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, it just could have been handed down or, created. Anyway, I got to give him props because if you can come up with a story that grows some legs like that.
You bet.
I respect that.
That's pretty cool.
Especially in 10 years.
Yeah. And that's, there's so many parts of this story, though, that particularly, why did this particular story get the legs that it has?
Right.
That means people want to believe in this to a certain point.
Or that there's help. If you're that desperate that you're seeking some kind of help, that you're going to get it. I don't know.
Well, there's lots of hope in there.
That's the other thing, though,
true.
is that if somebody really is, if you have lost all hope, that's another part of the story is, work through it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, part of the legend of the bus is that when you're on the bus, there's no conversation. You don't talk to anybody. Nobody's talking because everybody's so involved in their own issues, what they're going through.
So it would be a really cool movie script.
It would be. That would be a good movie.
It would be good if you're listening, Hollywood. Yeah.
We only require 70%.
Yeah, that's right. You got to fund our research here, okay?
So,
yeah.
But, there's something about this story that people want to hold on to.
Yeah.
That people want to believe in. And that was one of the things that's really interesting to me about this specific story.
Did you find any internet sites like where people have posted anything about maybe they were on the bus?
I did not.
Yeah.
I was actually trying to find some... I didn't run across anything like that. Now, this particular story, this urban legend is starting to show up in a lot of different websites and blogs and, paranormal type things. So the story itself is starting to get out there and get around. But
I think I took that bus on,
anybody
it was Greyhound, from Sacramento to Kentucky. It
Well,
felt
no,
like
I can understand that.
it took days. It was absolutely the bus ride to nowhere.
I can see how everybody would be silent, too.
So,
Yeah.
But really, that's a fascinating story.
There really is, and there's like I said, you could really unpack this quite a bit. There's
Yeah.
a lot in there that you can, that you can look at.
Yeah.
There is a hope in this story. Mm-hmm. There is a hope for people who are that depressed, who have lost all hope. You can, work through things. You
Right.
can get through this, and so there's an aspect of hope in there. There's a little bit of paranormal in there too.
Oh, definitely.
With you don't know how long you're on.
Lost time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And only you have to almost qualify to get on the bus in the first place.
Right.
You have to have hit that level of despair that allows you to get on the bus.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
But then again, there's also kind of a thing then that when you are in that level of despair, there's always other people out there going through that too.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's another aspect of this story because the bus always has people on it.
Mm-hmm. And it drops you off where you're supposed to be.
Yes. And that's a constantly repeated part of the story that they really emphasize. It drops you off where you need to be. And, that right there, again, is also an aspect that of the story that kind of really comes through for a lot of
super
things.
interesting.
It's kind of paranormal, but there's a lot of layers to this
Yeah.
story. So if it was some type of an urban legend that was just, people were talking about and whispering about, just handed down, until it got on this blog post. But either way, man, props. It's kind of a cool story.
It is.
I really like
It is. So, my friend Teresa's really going to hate this because she lives in the Point Pleasant, West Virginia where the Mothman statue is and festival is, okay? So, in her honor, I decided to do the Mothman. And when she listens, she's going to scream. So, anyway, Mothman. The most famous sighting of the Mothman is in 1966 and 1967, when the Mothman appeared in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, just ahead of the Silver Bridge collapse. Several people reported seeing the large winged creature with red and glowing eyes. And the first Mothman sighting occurred November 12, 1966, as far as the USA goes. And I think it's called Clendenin, West Virginia, when 5 grave diggers claimed to see a human-like figure soaring above them in the autumn trees. Days later, November 15th, in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, this is where the Ohio and Kanawha rivers come together. 2 couples both spotted a white-winged, human-sized creature with fiery eyes standing in front of their car headlights. And in the newspaper, it chased them for a while. Okay? And everybody who's witnessed this, there was over 100 accounts in this about 11-month period before the bridge collapse. There's over 100 accounts of witness reports in the newspaper. And so you have a cross-section of humanity in those 100. Mm-hmm. I mean, you've got farmers, you've got guys out fishing, you had, the grave diggers, the couples, there were volunteer firemen, there was all kinds of people that have seen this thing.
But it always starts with the gravedigger.
Yeah. Everything starts with gravediggers. So, one witness described the creature as having red eyes about 2 inches in diameter, 6 inches apart. It's pretty specific. So, the Mothman was seen, again, by 100 people in and around Point Pleasant for the year preceding the collapse of the Silver Bridge, which killed 46 people. So I started doing some more research on the Mothman, and I was trying to find some more articles or... it's really hard, The internet is, you open one door and 1,000 more open, but you don't know what's truthful. So I was trying to find... There was some reports in the days preceding Chernobyl. Several people saw a giant blackbird. Sounds similar to the Mothman. The terrifying creature rose above the horizon of Chernobyl and Pripyat. I don't know if I'm saying that correct. They called it a hideous humanoid with giant wings and a black headless body and red glowing eyes. I'm not sure how you have eyes without a head, but anyway, that's what they're saying.
Headless body is cool. Yeah. Okay, I got more questions.
Yeah, I do too. I'm like, pondered that for a while. But it sent a message of doom to all who gazed upon it. Some people believe that the black bird is a form of the Mothman. According to a Sydney archaeologist, his name is Robert Maxwell, and the earliest account of Chernobyl blackbird dates in 2005. However, the nuclear meltdown occurred in 1986. But again, a lot of the people who had the first counts that were recounting this to family and friends, they died. Mm-hmm. So It might have taken a number of years for people to have been writing this down and telling it again to other members of the family and friends before this finally took hold and people started going, oh, maybe we should, write this down and document this. So, I'm
not familiar what the attitudes or beliefs would be over in Russia either.
Right.
Is that something paranormal, something you can speak of over there, or is that?
I don't know. I did find some other stuff paranormally about Slavic cultures while I was researching this, but it doesn't seem like it's as front and center as it is here. We're very free to discuss stuff. Yeah. I'm not sure if they are over there.
Well, I was going to say, because it could be a generational thing, too. The people who experienced it never told anybody outside of their immediate family, if they even told them.
Right. According to this sighting, 5 employees had seen a large, dark, headless creature with gigantic wings and fire red eyes. It goes back to the headless thing. Chernobyl employees began sharing strangely similar experiences, and some had horrifying nightmares, and others received threatening phone calls after they started talking about this. They report. So, interesting. I know there are some paranormal teams that have gone into Chernobyl after. Now, all these years later, there's still pretty hot radioactive areas there, but some teams have gone in for a few minutes at a time to go in there, and they describe really frightening images that they've seen. I want to say it was Ghost Adventures. I'm not sure. Somebody went in there and caught some images that were pretty amazing. But
I believe it.
So you have that. And then in Germany, the Mothman was seen just prior to a mine collapse in Freiburg, which killed several miners. Early on the morning of September 10th, 1978, the workers approached the entrance to the mine. I'm assuming this is an underground mine. To begin their day of work, as they got closer, they noticed a man appearing to be wrapped in a dark trench coat standing in front of the entrance of the mine. Unsure as to why the man was standing there, a few of the workers approached to investigate. However, when they got a few feet away from the man, they thought it was a trench coat flung over the shoulders, but instead it opened a pair of huge outstretched wings attached to the dark figure. The miners who approached the figure heard a series of piercing shrieks. That would be from me if I saw that, I'd say. And some of the men fled the creature in the mine as the creature stood, wings folded in front of the mine. And at about 8 a.m. that morning, the portions of the mine collapsed, killed several workers, and the creature then disappeared from sight. Was never seen again.
Well, they're the tiebreaker. Did it have a head or not?
I know, right? So there also were reports of Mothman in Mexico and in India. So it's interesting. It's seen all over. There was also lack of any kind of real... anything I could really read online about. Somebody said that it was seen in 9/11, but, the internet. Others said there was the Minnesota bridge collapse that happened.
I've seen pictures of a similar creature before the Minnesota bridge collapse.
Oh, you did? Where, online?
Yes.
Yeah, people reported seeing it up there as well. Less documented as far as the West Virginia collapse. But so I thought it was interesting that kind of a version of this was kind of all over the world.
Yeah.
But I didn't find anything that predates the 1966 versions of, when it showed up in West Virginia. So is it a warning, or is it, can it predict like a disaster? Is it sent as a warning? Is it trying to protect people? Is it causing the issues? I mean, there's all these questions when you read this stuff.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people automatically want to say, it causes the issues because it's always there when something bad happens. I tend to lean more towards being some type of a protector or a warning.
Yeah, I was taking it that way too, particularly when I read the mine incident. It's standing in front of the mine entrance, which I imagine is the attic going into the mine, as if telling the workers to back away.
And what we have here is a entity that is human size, with wings, and generally that could either, that's described both angels and demons on both sides. Generally it's reported as the black color, which most people associate that with the demonic, which may or may not, or on the negative side, but which is not accurate.
Yeah, but it could also be protection. Black is...
It could also be protection, yeah. Now, the other thing about that is that if you have abilities, when you first start seeing, everything is black.
Yeah,
everything appears as a shadow. So for people who are not used to seeing the spirit world, this thing may or may not be black, but it's appearing black because it's the first... paranormal thing that a lot of people have ever really, literally seen with their eyes.
It's hard for people to describe darker than black, too.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and this creature by several accounts, is over 6 feet tall. Mm-hmm. And I mean, so I started doing some research. There is a professor who was trying to debunk this and saying, well, like, it could be an owl. Well, the largest North American owl that I believe is the great gray owl, and it can stand upwards of 3 feet tall. Mm-hmm. Very elusive owl. Very few people have seen it. I was a lucky person to actually hoot. I wasn't hooting for the owl. I was hooting for spotted owls, part of a research project, right? Mm-hmm. And the great gray owl answered, and I had the recording. Wow. I took it back to some biologists, and they went, no, that can't be right, because we don't have great gray owls in this particular area of the Sierra Nevadas. And I said, well, come out with me the next evening. Let's hoot again and see what happens. And it responded. And so we were able to pinpoint the location and see the owl. I mean, they are large, but they're not 6 feet.
Yeah.
And they're gray, not black. Even at night, with your flashlights on it, they're gray. They're light gray. So, and the next largest owl I could, is the great horned owl, but 24 inches tops. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know how you can confuse an owl. I know in the dark, things can appear large.
Completely
and
different,
very
yes.
scary. But I've never seen an owl with red glowing eyes. Nope, never. And I don't know. I don't know how you can confuse that. I can understand a few people confusing a bird of some sort, particularly a nocturnal bird, but
I just in my own mind, when I picture the Mothman, I'd say it'd be closer to more of a bat. Where it can fold out its wings, it's black. And that's also, I think, where the headless, I don't think it's actually headless, but it's so black that you cannot distinguish
the features
of the head.
Yeah.
But you can see the eyes. So you consider it just one part of the body because you can't differentiate the features of the head.
Yeah. Have you looked at, have you gone to the Falcon Bird Reserve in Boise? I forget what it is.
Oh, it's the Raptor Center.
Yeah, Raptor Center.
The Raptor Center, yeah.
Have you seen the Harpy Eagle that's there?
They're enormous. But we don't have them.
I know we don't.
have them in the United States, right? Aren't they?
Well, I know there's one in Boise.
Well, okay, in the wild. I don't know. They are huge, but I think aren't they a South American eagle?
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, you could definitely be afraid of that if it was flying over you.
I definitely was afraid of it.
Condors, condors are enormous, but again, they don't have condors in West Virginia, right? And I don't know if they have them in Germany. I don't know that, but
they don't have them in the owl in the high Sierras either. Da-da-da!
What owl?
I forget the one you were talking
about. The great gray?
The great gray.
Yeah. Well, that's actually where I hooted it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was in the Sierra Nevadas. So.
Well, that's kind of the point, is it didn't exist until you found it.
Well, I'm really slow on the uptake today. So yeah, I guess so. I mean, right? Biologists they did not believe it existed in that part of the Sierras, right? So, but I don't know. Condors, it would be hard to miss it. I mean, the wingspan was almost as big as our smaller airplane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they're just enormous. They are enormous, but so you go back and you look at mythological creatures, and there's a whole bunch that have wings. Mm-hmm. The banshee being one. Certain Celtic families, only certain Celtic families can hear them. It's not every Celtic family. And when you hear the screech of the banshee, somebody's going to die in your immediate family. That's the Ek. I don't know if I'm saying this right. It's a Philippine mythology. It's a bird-like human creature who searches for its victims at night and hungers for flesh and blood. Nice, huh? Mm-hmm. And they're usually described as flying creatures. The Garuda in Hindu mythology is a human with wings, as described as a king of birds, and is generally a protector. And interestingly enough, the Mothman prophecies was originally going to be called the Garuda,
Oh, really?
Yeah, thought that was
Okay.
interesting. Harpies are bird-like women associated with strong winds, storm winds, and they're known for terrorizing mortals. And I know a lot of women like this. Just saying. There's the Lama, or the Lamassu. It's a Sumerian goddess, and she's seen with wings. She's protective. And the some of these get me. Karura. In Japanese mythology, it's a divine creature and a guardian. So there's a whole bunch. There's a whole bunch of winged mythological creatures that are human-shaped.
There's a number of Sumerian deities that have wings. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. You can go in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. They have a statue of the Mothman. They have a festival there, so if you really want to get more information on it. But what I found interesting is that there's probably more sightings in the Mothman than the Bigfoot. Mm-hmm. So,
ooh. Well, there you have it.
Well, especially if you count all the ones around the world.
Yes.
And I think the one there in 66 there in West Virginia, I think just the sheer quantity of reports.
Right.
So many people reporting the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, some people thought, they're seeing a sandhill crane. They brought up a variety of different birds. And I just don't,
Some of the explanations require a lot more faith than believing it was the Mothman. Because it's, some of the explanations on it are like not even close.
No.
But if we're going to lump those together, we're going to have to do the Sasquatch and Yeti.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have to do an episode on the Sasquatch and the Yeti.
Okay,
Absolutely.
sold. No take backsies.
True.
What have you got?
So, in interest of full disclosure, I was looking over a list, and there is the Suicide Cliffs in Montana. And I thought, there's got to be some awesome stories here. And so I spent the last couple days looking, and they all developed into a love story, which is fine. It's fine.
But that's a different podcast.
Much different podcast. So, we are going to talk about the Gray Man Ghost. It's South Carolina ghost lore. And in reading this, there's a little bit of a love story. So...
What is
full circle, I know, right? He is wearing pink today.
It's a lovely shade of salmon. So, this is all about Pawleys Island legend in South Carolina. They say that the Gray Man was first seen in 1822, and they claim that his name is Dennis Hammond. They say that he was traveling through the area, and... Oh, I'm sorry. I read that completely wrong. Dennis Hammond is one of the guys that claimed to see the Gray Man before a hurricane in 1989.
Okay.
Here we go. This is happening.
So fairly recently then.
Well, that's not his name either. I had his name underlined, and apparently my phone decided to underline everything. So, yay! So
let's hear it for the technology. Man.
Yeah.
It's working.
Tell you what, I can ruin just about everything if there's an on switch. But the Gray Man, he is supposed to warn folks before a big event happens. And I would tell you his name, but my phone won't allow me to give you that information. He was trying to travel to his fiancée in 1822.
Well.
That too was underlined.
I would just like to throw out that the guy having problems with technology is our audio engineer. So just throwing that out.
Oh boy.
So if you can hear this, you're welcome.
We're doing good.
Oh boy. So, in his travels, him and his horse came across a storm. And the path they were in quickly developed into quicksand. And they were never seen or heard from again. Presumed drown in sand. Yep, poor horse. Anyway, they say that if you see the Gray Man right before the storm hits, that your property or home will be safe or saved. And there's been a whole lot of recent ones. The most recent was in 2012 that someone claimed to see the gray man. And apparently that someone was well connected with the Weather Channel, and they did a special on it in 2014 called American Supernatural. So during all of these things, and in all of our urban legends today, there's been lots of hope and or love, I guess. I don't know, that's what was thrown my way every time. And I think that when you really boil down the urban legends and what they are, people want to have hope and be hopeful. And that's why the stories travel down. Because you're looking for those opportunities to grab onto hope. If a storm's coming, you're looking for the gray man. You always have it in mind that there's a Mothman in the back of your mind, and if you see him, maybe you shouldn't probably cross over that bridge.
Something might be happening.
Yeah, right.
And if a bus happens to stop and you're having a bad day, you may want to get on.
That's true.
It's amazing how most all of these, make the day better. They make your imagination kind of turn on. And in the end, they're cool stories that we all like.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, that's a good point, is that a lot of the urban legends do have some aspect of hope to them. There's some message in there for all of them, for people to hold on to.
I don't know. Have you heard the one about the guy with the hook on Lover's Lane? That didn't sound hopeful to me.
Okay, maybe not all of them.
Maybe not. Not all
Or watch
of
out
them.
and stay safe.
Some of them are pretty dark. Okay.
I think that was our parents warning us
Yeah.
not to go down that path. Right?
Well, that's the other one, though, and we've kind of gone over this before, is that a lot of legends, a lot of urban legends are, designed to keep people in, the village. Don't wander off at night. Don't, and maybe the modern urban legend is don't stay out too late, be home by your curfew, or
or the bus will get you.
yeah,
right. Right.
or the man with the hook, or the bus, or whatever, So a lot of these might just be kind of some of them have a lot of messages in them, but some of them might also be kind of a hidden warning, just to try to keep people, in the boundaries,
Right.
so to speak, keep people from leaving the village.
Right.
And that's exactly what we talked about the first time we did kind of a legend series. I don't think it was urban legend per se, but it was just legends.
Right.
And it was grandma trying to keep the grandson, granddaughter safe and not go next to the river.
Right.
And there's definitely elements to that in all the urban legends and in all legends, period.
Yes. So.
I agree with myself.
Yes.
In our defense, it's a little hot in here.
Yes.
My brain is starting to melt.
A lot of recording studios, like a lot of them, the air conditioning creates a background hum that you pick up on the mics, and we're trying to avoid that. So it is July. We are in like an excessive heat wave for our area right now. So yeah, it's getting really warm. But
Well, my day job is right next to a smoker.
So
yes,
this isn't on
that
for
is
you.
true.
Yeah. Right.
It's just an awesome day to be here.
Good deal. All right. Well, this is, speaking of spirits, I got that right this time. I don't know why I struggle with that like I do. But anyway, thanks for joining us today as we're talking about urban legends. What are the urban legends in your area? If you got any good ones, send them to us. We'll look those up. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next podcast.
Bye.